we've worked with customers who use, let's say, managed services, for example, AWS EKS, right? And they are just, you touched upon this, that you might have to see the context between how different layers of infrastructure that you might have to pull in, maybe not the kube system level, but a bit above, which is actually orchestrating the pods. So on cloud environments, for example, in EKS, people ask us, okay, do I need to use container insights? Do I need to integrate all the Kubernetes controller logs with CloudWatch? Do I have to have events on them? There's just general, some of these things. If you touch a bit upon that, like what's your take on that?
I think there's a challenge with a lot of the traditional tools, which is that they work fundamentally based on tags and correlations. And I'll give an example to make that really concrete. So I have a pod that's running. That pod is part of a deployment, and that pod is running on some nodes, and it emits a log line. So that log line now shows up in CloudWatch. And if everything was set up properly, then that log line has like a few tags on it. And you can now take those tags and you can use those tags to like get back to the pod or to get back to the deployment. And maybe you don't know data about the node, but like once you get to the pod, and you can like try and again correlate stuff with the node. That's a process that a human can do, but you as a human have to do that contextualization manually. The problem is that if you look at like from CloudWatch's perspective, CloudWatch doesn't know anything about Kubernetes. CloudWatch doesn't know anything about pods, anything about deployments, anything about nodes. CloudWatch has a log line, and that log line has a bunch of tags, and those tags happen to have like pod equals XYZ. And a lot of the traditional systems are not built with enough, with an actual semantic understanding. This is a pod, it's part of a deployment, it's running on a node. This is the context that matters. So when people then try and investigate, then you end up like copy pasting different labels, and you try and look at something in a different system that happened at the same time and pulling together all these different disparate data sources. And that can be very challenging. Whereas the alternative approach and the way that you can do that is based on entity mapping. So when you look at it from an entity mapping perspective, then there's a pod here, which is part of this deployment. It's connected to a certain service object, right, or a certain API. It's running on a certain node. This node has like these logs at this time. That's like a log type relationship. When you look at it from an entity map perspective, then it's very easy to take all the made systems and do that contextualization, which is very hard to do if you're just viewing everything as like arbitrary log lines that have arbitrary tags.